welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast. This is episode 16, I think I'm right in saying. I am your host, Kris, and I return with my merry bunch of men, as I always do at this time of the week. I have John, I have Tom, and I have Drew. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Kris.
Evening. Hello.
Are we all well, I trust? I hope so.
Very good, mate.
That was a better response than I could have got, so I'll take that. Right, so good evening to everyone, or good morning, or good afternoon, whatever time it is you listen to us, you are very welcome. Let's get on to business then. We have plenty to get through. We'll start with our usual format, and that is kicking off with this week's Mighty 90. Okay, gentlemen, you know the drill by now. You've got 90 seconds to give us your updates on your various followed hipster teams. I am going to start this week. I know, shock horror. It's really unexpected, but I thought I've always put the pressure on you guys, so I'm going to kick us off. So, I shall pop the stopwatch on, and my Mighty 90 begins now. So, this weekend, Lorient got back to winning ways. I'm happy to report they were at home to Ram in Ligue 1. At Le Moustoir, there was 10,002 people in attendance. I love that extra 2 on the end. They actually made changes after a bit of a poor run of form recently. We had Mukanju, Waris, Barthelme and Karamoko all brought into the starting lineup, so changes ahoy. And it didn't start particularly well, as the home goalkeeper Benjamin Lecomte was forced into a superb save to keep the score at 0-0 from Nicolas de Préville. But just 3 minutes later, Jan Jouffer, the captain, swung in a corner, and it was headed home from quite a distance actually, by Zargo Touré after 15 minutes, no relation to Yaya. Lecomte was then made to make some more very crucial saves, again from de Préville before half time. And Bakanju himself should have made it 2-0, but his shot hit the post. But in the second half, another corner from Jouffer, and Touré repeated the dose, and he headed in his second. So 2 goals from centre-back for the defender, and he's taking the place of Kone, who of course has gone to Sunderland now on a permanent deal. Lecomte was forced into another good save late on from de Préville, but Lorient managed to grab the points, and luckily that is the first win in a number of weeks. Good for them. They're now up to 5 wins at home now. First win in 5, I should say, at home. They're up to 10th spot in Ligue 1. However, it's PSG away on Wednesday next. So that's what's going on with Lorient this week. Good to be back to winning ways. I shall now turn it over to my panellists. And John, I'm looking at you. So, is it going to be good news or is it going to be bad news? Let's find out. Your Mighty 90 on Gladbach begins now.
Well, I really didn't want to do it this week. The Schubert shine is starting to wane slightly. We lost, sadly, to Mainz. It was only 1-0, and the performance wasn't terrible. You know, we did okay. It's fair to say that Mainz, the goal scorer, Christian Clemens, probably won't score a better goal this season. It was a really good strike. Some people called it lucky. It's a little bit harsh because it was a great hit, but not a lot that Jan Sommer could do about it. Second half of the game, after a sort of lackluster first half, we came back into it more and started to push and really pile on the pressure. And I think at one point, I'm sure I counted that we had about 26 people up front, but it didn't really seem to matter how many players we put on in the striking position. We just couldn't find a goal. Karius making some really good saves for Mainz, but it's the 8th defeat of the season now for us, second in a row. There is some good news. Andre Hahn and Patrick Herrmann are back in light training. I'm not sure how long it will be until they're back in the team proper, but that's certainly something that the team could use because we're struggling to get goals at the moment. And oddly, Joseph Dermich, someone who probably could score goals, but it didn't really work out for him. He's left to join Hamburg on loan for the rest of the season. Our next game coming up is a home tie on a Friday night again, and it is against Werder Bremen. So a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde team, so we'll see how we perform on Friday.
Super job, and I have to say that the opposition goalkeeper Loris Karius did pull off the most unbelievable save in that match. More on him later. But,
yeah, absolutely. His manager said afterwards, as soon as he made that save, he knew that they were getting all 3 points. Which,
you just get the sign, don't you?
Yeah.
It's not our day. Absolutely. Right, let's go to chillier climes then. Tom, I'm sure you've got something to tell us about Salzburg this week. Let's find out what it is. So your Mighty 90 begins now.
Okay, I've got another friendly. Yeah. Okay, so we played against SV Sandhausen. Once again, another German team that Drew can murder me for my pronunciation for. It finished 1-1. We'll start off with that because it's not awe-inspiring. It's the second friendly we played under new manager Oscar Garcia. First little bit of action, Minamino used some excellent footwork that Ronaldo would have been proud of to create a chance for himself, and then finished with the finish that Soldado would have been proud of, straight into the keeper's hands. So that kept the score at 0-0. Sandhausen then scored, unfortunately more poor defending from a corner, allowed Rosbach to slot home a player again I haven't heard of before in the 32nd minute. But just 2 minutes later, David Atanga, the youngster, equalised, another youngster providing for him in the form of Lima. At half-time, Chan Huang came on for Atanga, the goal scorer, and then he had a chance in the second half to win it. And also with Mukhtar patting in too, but can only fly over the bar, those two chances that went astray meant that the score remained at 1-1 at full time. In terms of news, transfers, nothing happened. We went in for a player called Dabur from Grasshopper for €5 million, but nothing happened to that. In terms of where we go in the league, we return to action on the 7th, which is next Sunday. We play away at Admira, and hopefully we can maintain our title push, because I'd really like a trophy for us this season, please.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And hey, who doesn't love a friendly at this time of year?
Exactly.
Oh, there we go. It's credit to you for keeping us informed, even though there's no actual action. Fair play
And
to
no
you.
one cares.
Oh, you do. That's the important thing in life. Right then, Drew, to round us off, let's hear how Feyenoord got on. I watched this game. I have a feeling it's not going to be good news, but hey-ho, let's find out. Your Mighty 90 begins now.
No, Kris. No, it's not good at all. Since we last spoke, Feyenoord have played 2 and lost 2. We've only scored a combined 1 goal in the last 2 appearances, allowing 4. But what pisses me off is against Heerenveen and ADO Den Haag, who sit 11th and 12th respectively. We can't seem to buy a bucket right now. And so at the moment, I don't really want to go into the highlights. Just want to be frustrated. But basically, for me, I want to discuss. I have actual concerns. I know previously I've mentioned and spoken to you guys about the fact that for me, we need other sources of both goal scoring and creativity than the standout players. So Michel Kramer, Elhara Elia, and Dirk Kuyt. Simon Gustafsson finally came back, but he's more forward thinking than a real creator. So I think these 2 matches actually show for me that we need a more central creative figure. And I think with the recent results, the fact that we haven't won in our last 6, we've actually lost our last 5 straight. We now sit 13 points back of Ajax, who are in second. PSV are now top. I think for me that shows that the concerns are maybe starting to loom a bit larger. And Heracles is only a point adrift behind us. NEC Nijmegen are 2 points back. Betis is only 3 points back. So as I said before, we'll never be able to catch PSV and Ajax, but I want to sort of solidify that 3rd place spot. Now I don't even know if we can do that at the moment. We need to turn our form around quickly, or else we may actually miss out on on an automatically qualified Europa League spot, and that's not what I wanted to see. So not good at the moment.
No. I watched the game live, and it struck me as a side that were just desperately, they're almost trying too hard to try and find that pass that wasn't on, or that shot that was from an angle that was impossible, and then just hit with counter-attacks, I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, but it's a shame because it's a good club, and the fans are turning as well, which is another worry I would suspect. But
yeah,
hey ho, happier times ahead. Let's hope. Right, okay then. So there's the Mighty 90 done. And again, if any of our listeners have anything that they want to bring up with our pundits, then please do drop them a tweet. I'm sure they'll be happy to talk about it, as long as it's not after a defeat. Although that's proving harder as weeks go by. Let's move on then and take a trip into this week's world of football.
It's the final countdown. The final countdown.
Right then, so the final countdown. You might have heard the new little soundbite there, because I've kind of called it the final countdown now. Although we'll stick to the world of football. So I'll give you some.
I apologise, listeners. I'm sorry. I tried to stop him.
Hey, nothing wrong with a bit of Europe, I tell you. Right then, so there was no Premier League this weekend, so obviously no stats for that. But the rest of our big four. Liga, there was 24 goals, there was 8 clean sheets, 3 red cards, 5 home wins, 4 away wins from the total of 10 games. In La Liga, this includes this evening's game, there was 29 goals, 3 clean sheets, 4 red cards, 6 home wins and 3 away wins for the 10 matches played. In Serie A, 26 goals, 5 clean sheets, 2 red cards, 4 home wins, just the 1 away win. No prizes for guessing who that was. That was in the 10 games. And in the Bundesliga, finally, 25 goals, 6 clean sheets. Amazingly, no red cards. 5 home wins and 2 away wins. So that's the stats of this week. To total them up then, 104 goals across Europe's big four leagues this weekend, 22 clean sheets, 9 red cards, 20 home wins, 10 away wins, and that was from the total games across those leagues. So that's the stats for this week. Right, let's move on then. Now, before we dive into our European Leagues roundup, I just want to let all of our listeners know, today, time of recording, just before midnight on Monday the 1st of February, we have had a very busy day over here in the UK, particularly. It's a big fuss is made of transfer deadline day. We're not going to leave you short. We are going to talk about transfers. However, we're going to do a bonus podcast, which will be available probably on Thursday morning. We're going to record it Wednesday night. It might be up late Wednesday night if you're lucky. But we're going to do a special podcast, which will probably be just about an hour, where all of the hipsters, including Ross and including Danny, I should add, where we're just going to sort of break down the relevant leagues, pick out a few transfers that we think might be good, a few that might be bad, and we'll do it in a separate pod, because we'd be here forever, wouldn't we, John, if we brought them all up tonight? So,
yeah, Serie A alone is
exactly
extensive.
Yes, that's a good word to use. So we'll save that for Wednesday's pod. Right then, on with the show. We're going to start this week. I'm going to start with you, John, actually, as we go to this week's Serie A. Right then, this week, John, in Serie A, we've already gone through the goals. Let's start off with Roma. They had a returning player to Serie A who joined their ranks this week, and he had quite a fun debut, didn't he?
Yeah, it was the return of the Pharaoh. El Shaarawy came back to Serie A. Bit of a surprise move in the end. There was lots of talk of him going to the Premier League at one point, which I'm sure English fans would have been excited by. But yeah, he got Spalletti's first win since coming back to Roma, beating Frosinone 3-1. First goal was actually from Raja Nainggolan. It'd be confusing to say he scored whilst he was laying on the floor, but that's how he did it. He took a shot and was pulled down by the defender, and as the ball ricocheted back to him, he just sort of launched his body at it and managed to rifle it in past the keeper. Frosinone did respond though well. Ciafani with a really good goal actually. Got a bit of luck, the ball bouncing off the defender, but he sort of juggled it in the box as he was approaching forward and drew Szczesny out and then nutmegged him with the finish. So a really nice goal. But yeah, El Shaarawy back on his return to Serie A, scored a fantastic little back heel flick at the near post. The cross in for the goal was actually from Zukanovic as well. So another new signing for Roma. So the two debutants doing really well. Pjanic got the third goal, running clean through and finishing just from outside the box. Typical Milan Pjanic, didn't have to rifle it or really drill it. He just placed it perfectly as if he was passing it into the back of the net. Really nice goal. Good result for Roma. I think it's hard to tell with Shaarawy because he has had so many injuries, but the talent is there, and he could really turn around Roma's season. So I think it's a good signing for them. But we shall we'll see what happens.
Yes, yeah, very good goal, good start. And as you say, that Nainggolan, that goal was bizarre, but a very well taken finish from on his back. And yeah, Zukanovic, just to bring our listeners up to date, he's older than I thought. He's 28, signed from Sampdoria, previously represented Kievo and Ghent and Kortrijk in the Belgian league. So yeah, he had a good debut. Definitely looked
Yeah,
super.
it made a few really good defensive tackles and clearances as well. So effective at both ends.
Yeah, the man that killed Ashley Cole. Not literally, of course. Lovely goal from Pjanic late on in that one as well. Pure class with that finish. So good win for Roma. Let's move on to the one away win in Serie A this weekend then. I bet our listeners can't guess who got that. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was Juventus away at Chievo. Not so much a surprise that they won. That's 12 straight wins now, which is a new club record for Juventus. Alvaro Morata started up front in place of Mandzukic. He'd gone 20 games without a goal before scoring midweek against Inter. Ugh, sorry, I had to mention that. That's annoying. But then he went and bagged himself a brace in this one. He scored 2 goals. First from a lovely Stefan Lichtsteiner cross, and then the second was some great interplay between Dybala and Sami Khedira, which Morata got on the end of. The third was scored by Alexandro. Again, a great team goal. Lichtsteiner, Dybala, Pogba all involved for Sandro to come running in from the left-hand side. Not quite Brazil 1970, but it was sort of half of that team move. And the last goal was Paul Pogba. It was around 60, 65 minutes, and Juve at that point were just controlling the game and just sort of seeing out time 3-0 up. And Pogba decided, you know what, I think I need a goal. So he just decided to dribble past 3 players and slot it in really calmly. So yeah, put Juve top of the league briefly for a few hours, but the form they're in is really ominous, and the fact they've got a fit Sami Khedira in the team as well now. I think if it wasn't Bayern Munich that they were playing in the Champions League, then I'd give them a real shout to get to the semis or further. But yeah, they could cause Bayern some problems. So I know I've said it before, but I'm really looking forward to that tie.
Yeah, it gets tastier by the week, especially as Bayern's form is, don't get me wrong, they're still winning, but they don't look quite as ominous as they did pre-winter break, although I'm sure that'll change now. I've just said that, I've jinxed it. But no, Juve looking impressive once again, and good to see Morata back, because I think he's a player that will actually come good again. I've always liked him, so good for him. We'll touch on the rivals' results during your scores roundup, but let's move on to another game to discuss. What about Bologna? Now, this wouldn't necessarily be a game that you would leap off the page, but it was quite the entertaining encounter with Samp, wasn't it?
Yeah, really good game. Bologna running out 3-2 winners. It's strange because poor old Montella went to Samp, and he didn't have the best of starts, and he'd been a bit miserable with the fact he'd been sacked before, and then he goes to Bologna, who have sort of turned things around on a Donadoni and doing really well, and then he sees his team go 2-0 down, and just Samp playing really bad. He also had to suffer the fact that Zukanovic had just gone to Roma. He lost Eder, probably the best player in his team. Had just joined into Milan as well, so he's really had to reshuffle his side. Mounier, I believe, was in Ligue 1.
He was, Anthony Mounier, yeah.
Yeah, he got the first goal for Bologna, and then Donza got the second from just really poor play from Samp. Giaccarini stealing the ball far too easily in midfield and just putting him through. But second half, Samp, they finally turned things around. Montella got them in. Obviously started complaining about all the players he'd lost and saying how useless they all were. And they obviously paid attention because Luis Muriel popped up with a goal, showing some of the jinking and dancing feet that people always plugged as him being a great player and never quite getting there. And then Joaquin Correa getting the equaliser, a player who you will hear a little bit about later on. But sadly, Montella's bad luck carried on as towards the death of the game, a slightly dubious penalty was awarded to Bologna, shall we say, and Mattia Destro stepped up to take the winner. So, yeah, a bit of a topsy-turvy game, but a really good, fun one to watch. But Montella just not getting any luck at the moment with Samp.
No, they stole the goals in that game as well, because there's a couple of 0-0s on the Sunday, which 3 games I didn't expect to be 0-0, but more on that in a second. Before the rest of the roundup, we've got to touch on it, sadly. There was a Milan derby on the Sunday evening. I messaged you beforehand and said I expect goals. I've got to be honest, I didn't expect the scoreline we got. What happened, and what do you make of it?
Yeah, I hate having to talk about this. I think I replied to you, I bet I fall asleep during this game and it will be boring. It was anything but, which is nice if you're a neutral, but not if you're an Inter fan. Milan went out and smashed us, basically, 3-0. So, yeah, the Derby della Madonnina, Icardi was dropped. from the starting lineup, which was a bit suspicious anyway. Eder was thrown straight into the team, which I don't think too many people had a problem with that. The game started quite well for Inter. They looked really bright. Jovetic and Lajic really playing well. Great interplay between the two of them, but just couldn't quite find the finish. Donnarumma making some good saves. And then it sort of distended into the typical sort of derby scrappy affair, lots of fouls, breakups in play. But it was Milan who took the lead. Excuse me. Alex with an absolutely towering header from a corner that as the first headed goal Inter has conceded all season, strangely. So the first half finished 1-0. I wasn't feeling great about it. Wasn't really enjoying watching it. Second half, Inter started really well again. I thought, okay, we're putting the pressure on. This is good. It's getting later and later in the game. It's got to the 55th minute. Icardi's going to come on. Still not on. 60th minute, still not on. Finally, Mancini threw him on. I thought, yes, brilliant. This will be fine. Immediate impact. Comes on. Gets a shot. Forces Donnarumma into a really good save. The rebound falls to Icardi and he gets felled by Alex in the box. This is by Alex, who previously to this point had been yellow carded. Penalties awarded. Alex doesn't get a second yellow card. Very strange. Icardi steps up to take the penalty. You think, all right, 1-0, it's going to be fine. He hit the post. And unfortunately, Perisic put the rebound wide. And then minutes later, Milan go on to score a second. Niang with an absolute peach of a ball for Carlos Bacca scores that. Inter at that point just fell to bits. Defence was just all over the place. And the third goal came from, it's completely lost me now. Who scored the third, Kris?
Niang.
It was Niang got this third, wasn't it? Yeah. It was just a very strange game. Inter were better in large parts. Donnarumma was really shaky for Milan at times. And the whole Icardi not starting, Mancini got himself sent off by the fourth official, telling him he was an absolute disgrace. The referee was awful. It's fair to say that definitely, that the Milan deserved the win. In the end, because they got the goals and they were very good goals, but it was just really poor performance, and it just compounded on an Inter team that has just slipped way off the pace and looks like it's slipping well away from the title race now.
Yeah, it's a real. It's just like you, it took me really by surprise, particularly how well Inter started, and it just all went horribly wrong. But good evaluation. Give us the results from this weekend's games, and then give us the table.
Yeah, we had two 1-1 draws. That was Carpi versus Palermo. Carpi still unbeaten. Atalanta versus Sassuolo as well. We had 3 0-0s. Genoa versus Fiorentina. Fiorentina dropping points there. Torino versus Verona. Verona still without a win. And Udinese versus Lazio. Lazio dropping points there. The only other team that won this weekend was Napoli. 5-1 against Empoli, and yes, Gonzalo Higuain did score. He only got one of them though, so he has got 22 in 22 now. So as I said, Juve were briefly top of the league, but Napoli are now back on top on 50 points. Juventus second on 48, and the gap is getting a little bit wider now. Fiorentina in third on 42, Inter on 41, and Roma with that win on 38 up into fifth. Down at the bottom, Verona still bottom on 11, Frosinone on 16, Carpi on 19, and then a tiny little gap starting to build up between those bottom three, as Samp on 23 and Genoa on 24.
Still no win for Verona, bless them.
Yeah, poor old Verona. Yeah.
Dear, yeah, even 12-1. Oh. Not this week though, more on that later. What about, there's a couple of midweek games, isn't there? And do you want to give us your highlights of that midweek programme for the next fixtures?
Yeah, Tuesday night is just one game, and it is a really good game. It's Roma away to Sassuolo, which should be a really, really good tie. And on the Wednesday, the full fixture list, the rest of the games, and the pick of the bunch there is Lazio at home to Napoli. I know we are not doing transfers, but I will just give you one for my little tiny bit of news section because it is quite funny. Verona have signed Polish international Dominik Furman from Toulouse on loan. So taking one relegation struggling player from one team to another, so yeah.
To another, yeah. It's a bit of an odd one, isn't it? Anything else news-wise that's worth bringing up this week?
The only real sort of news other than transfer, because obviously that's everywhere. Mancini got a 1-game ban for what happened in the Milan derby. That's quite normal. But the Napoli fans have been banned from the stadium for the game against Juventus in February. But that's the one thing. Napoli fans are a little bit notorious for causing trouble.
Yes, and as you say, the midweek action will have a report on that next week, or if there's anything that stands out, we will mention that next week. So, thank you very much. Good as usual. Please do tweet John if you've got any questions on things Italian. I know we've got a couple of questions later on tonight, so we will bring those up then. Right, let's move across to Tom then and check into Spain and see what's happened this week in La Liga. Right then, Tom, let's start with Barca. They had a pretty big fixture this weekend, probably the standout fixture of the weekend. What happened when they played Atleti Madrid?
Yeah, a lot of build up to this game. Clearly, there's Atletico started where you'd expect them to, with the form they've been in, on top of the match. Even though some people say it's quite surprising at the Nou Camp, but they certainly started on top and they took the lead. Koke finishing off an easy setup from Saul. Saul's the youngster, been in great form for them this season. But then Barcelona really kicked into gear. Messi levelled after Barca reasserted themselves. A cutback from Alba found the Argentinian, and it was an easy finish into the left-hand side of the goal. And then Suarez put a great Suarez from a great ball by Dani Alves. Slid through Oblak's legs, and it's something that you don't really see from Oblak. He's been a great keeper for Atletico. As I said that before in recent pods, Atletico have only let in 8 goals all season, and now that's 10. So it's quite uncharacteristic of them. And then they just lost their heads completely. Felipe Luis got sent off for an absolutely horrendous tackle on Messi. So it'd be a shame if Messi's career was to end at any point, and this tackle was certainly a candidate for doing that. And a high foot onto his knee and could have easily snapped his leg in half. And then Godin came flying in on a yellow card into Suarez that rightly got him his second yellow of the game, and he was sent off. So Atletico a finish of 9 men. They've lost Felipe Luis in suspension, and now they've lost Godin, who's arguably been their best player, bar Griezmann. So worrying times for Atletico in their title bid now.
Yeah, do you think it's fair to say, or would it be fair to maybe say that they scored too early? I know it's a really stupid cliche, but 10 minutes, they had a long time to sit back.
Yeah, possibly, but at the end of the day, if you're going to bet on one team who could sit back and defend a lead for 80 minutes, it would normally be Atletico. So
Fair point.
still, yeah, but it might have gone too early, and Barca really kicked into gear after they scored, so it probably wasn't the best thing to do to them.
No. Does show that they are still top dogs, Barca, at the moment. Let's drift into a different area of the table then. Eibar, who've been high-flying, but they did suffer a setback with a loss last weekend. How did they get on this weekend, home to Malaga?
Yeah, the recent form continued, and they lost again. Malaga, you could argue that these two teams have been utter two different sort of surprises in the league. Obviously, you mentioned Eibar surprisingly up in the top half of the table, and Malaga, who were bottom for quite a while, tied with Levante, are now up to mid-table, and they got the winning 2-1 away at Eibar, so even more impressively. A man who's been in great form for them, Juan P, finished off a Castro cross, the man that's moved from Real Sociedad just before half-time. And then Juan P easily has performed one of the biggest misses I've ever seen. I mean, you thought Coleman's was bad. Well, this guy has missed an open goal from about 25 yards, arguing it's quite far out, but all he has to do is kick it in the goal, and these guys get paid all this money every week, and he's completely sliced it wide. Roque Santa Cruz does a blast from the pass, stabbed past Riasco in stoppage time of the second half to seal all 3 points for Malaga, and there was just a little bit of time left for Eibar to get some satisfaction. Borja Baston, the man who seems to be in great form for them, getting a consolation, but Malaga definitely winning the game of the surprise teams this season.
Yeah, good points for Malaga as well. They seem to be getting it together in recent weeks. They're back into mid-table. Good for them. Sevilla, another side that we've said in previous weeks have underperformed, but 3 unbeaten coming into the home tie with Levante. Are they still unbeaten?
They are, and they did it without Unai Emery being in the dugout because he had to watch from the stands after his shenanigans in the last match. Another name that John will certainly know is Giuseppe Rossi, and he started for Levante in this game. But it was Sevilla who took the lead very early on in the first minute. In fact, Kevin Gamero,
Legend.
Yep, a player I must say I'm surprised no one has come in for in this January window. Considering you look at likes of players like Berahino being bidded on 24 million, this man has been scoring for fun recently and latched onto an easy ball in the box and smashed past the Levante keeper. Um, he then turned provider. In the second half, setting up an easy goal for Abora, simple tap in, open goal. And then a defensive catastrophe occurred in Sevilla, which I wouldn't say is uncharacteristic. But if you look at their first half of the season, it might not be that so. A poor rollout from Rico allowed Rossi to steal the ball, and a tame shot, I should say, hit at Rico, and you would expect the man to save it, but uncharacteristically, he allowed it to parry into the goal. Really quite odd. I haven't really seen a save that was. He dives to the right, the ball deflects to the left, and dribbles over the line. Really quite odd. So that was 2-1, but the man that's really been one of the signings of the season, Conor Plianka, turned out with an absolutely outrageous shot across the keeper into the top right-hand corner to seal all the points. So Sevilla in really good form, now unbeaten in 4, and they go into the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey as well as their Europa League exploits. So it'd be interesting to see how the second half of the season really does roll out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're all, of course, crossing our fingers that Conor Plianka signs into the Premier League just to hear Danny try and pronounce his name. So
Of course.
fingers crossed on that one. Final game now. Real Madrid, they took on your beloved Espanyol. Is it fair to say they got their pants pulled down a little bit?
They did. Although Espanyol probably pulled them down themselves. It seems to be a bit of a theme. Espanyol getting romped by Real Madrid. I mean, they lost 6-0 in the reverse fixture at Espanyol. So you think they would have learned from the mistakes, but no. It was 6-0 again. So here we go. James started off the route, crossing into Benzema. His shouldered pass. The new signing in Arlauskis, the man who they signed from Watford, wasn't getting much time. Aurelio Gomez between the sticks for most matches. Sort of put under the sword in this game by his manager, swapping Pau Lopez out just for this game, just to get a bit of a rout. CR7 started his show, scoring from the spot, the penalty given away stupidly, and then James got in the goals himself. A deflected shot flew past Arlauskis in the 17th minute, making it 3-0. CR7 scored a second, and my goal of the weekend. Great footwork from outside the box and smashed it with his so-called weaker foot.
Can I just say woof on that goal? Because the little technique. Sorry, the skills.
It is one. And I'm not one for really helping CR7's cause, but as John describes, it is quite a goal. So, and then in second half, Jesse was brought on, and a bit of a forgotten man at Real Madrid, but he really lit up the show, and crossing for CR7's hat-trick, a diving header, which he then received a massive boot in the head from a diving Arlauskis, but I think he'll take the hat-trick. And then Espanyol finally got a goal, and it was from their debutant, Duarte, who they've signed from Club Brugge. Unfortunately, it was in the wrong goal. Jesse providing the cross and Duarte stabbed past his own keeper. So Espanyol rolling over, and it's been a bit of a thing in the press and all over Twitter, and a lot of fans of Barcelona in particular have been saying that Espanyol don't try against Real Madrid, and they always try much harder against Barcelona. Well, first of all, it's a Catalan derby when they Barca, so you'd expect them to play more. And Espanyol were without Caicedo, Asensio, and Gerrard, so that's 3 of their best players not playing. So it was always going to happen.
Yeah, tough. I think, as you said, like 3-0 down inside the first 15, 16 minutes. That wasn't the best of starts. So tough week. Give us the other results and the table from this weekend.
Yep, so Bilbao continued their great form, and Inaki Williams continued his great form, scoring in the only goal of the game in a 1-0 win away at Getafe. Juan Carlos getting a red card for Getafe right at the end of the match. Villarreal winning 1-0 against Granada, just ploughing on. Not a pretty match, but they got the job done. Bruno again scoring, but from the penalty spot this time. Real Sociedad winning is a nice change, and Betis, even though they've come off the back of quite a few undefeated matches, were put to the sword, and Xavi Prieto and Inigo Martinez, the centre-back, scoring for Sociedad, and Ruben Castro, the man who seems to be the only scorer for Betis of recent times, getting the only consolation in that game. Valencia, what can we say about Valencia? Their 14-month unbeaten run at home has come to an end at the hand of someone you probably wouldn't expect in Sporting Gijón. Sanabria, man, who's in great form for them, scoring from the penalty spot in the 50th minute, piling the pressure on Gary Neville. And there is, with the recent revelations of what we'll talk about later, Manuel Pellegrini is being lined up as a replacement in next season. So that'll be certainly interesting and one to watch. Las Palmas scoring 2 against Celta Vigo, struggling Celta Vigo. They took the lead, actually, Vigo, with Bongonda scoring a great goal in the 5th minute. But then Palmas scored with Jonathan Fierro from the spot, and then William Jose in the 90th minute snatching all 3 points. And then tonight's game was quite a one to watch, actually. Deportivo drawing 2-2 against Rayo Vallecano. Vallecano took the lead through Fedor in the 8th minute. That man, Lucas Perez, Deportivo's star man right now in the 19th minute, equalising. Jozabed, another man that I'm surprised didn't leave Rayo in the January transfer window. Has been scoring great goals from midfield. Scored in the 23rd, and then Far, the Frenchman for Deportivo, equalising just after the second half had started, and that's where it stayed and finished 2-2. So probably a good point for both teams considering the performance of each team. Yeah. So the table. I've gone for top 8 because it's so difficult to look at this at the moment. Barcelona on 51. They have a game in hand, however. Atletico on 58. Real Madrid have now clawed back their way. 1 point behind Atletico on 47. Villarreal, 3 points behind Real Madrid on 44. That's where there's a bit of a gap. 8 points separating 4th and 5th. Sevilla on 36. Then you have Bilbao, 34. Celta Vigo have gone down, as well as Eibar on 34 and 33 respectively. Down at the bottom, Levante still sitting bottom. Now there's a bit of a gap as well. 3 points. They sit on 17 with Granada, as I said, 3 points higher on 20. Rayo also on 20. Sporting Gijón are finally at the relegation zone on 21 points. Las Palmas also have gone up, as well as 21 points, and my beloved Espanyol are now 15th on 22 points, worryingly just 2 points above the drop zone.
Danger. There's midweek Copa del Rey, isn't there? Do you want to just let our listeners know which?
There is. I'll just inform the listeners of last week's results in the Copa del Rey as well. So Atletico lost at home to Celta Vigo, so that wasn't great temptations going into the game at the weekend. 3-2 to Celta Vigo. So, and then there's Barca. They beat Bilbao 3-1, so 5-2 on aggregate. Mirandes, the lower league side, are finally out, losing 5-0 on aggregate to Sevilla, 3-0 on the night. And Valencia did actually get a win. They won away at Las Palmas, 2-1 on aggregate, so they go through to the semis. The draw was made. Barca play Valencia on Wednesday, and Celta play Sevilla on Thursday. That is in Sevilla. And my fixture to watch for next weekend is Bilbao against Villarreal. I'm sort of hoping Bilbao win that, just to close the gap up a bit more for 4th place and make it a bit more interesting.
It's good to hear that Gary Neville's got a nice easy game to get back on the right winning trail.
Yeah, easy.
Could be tough. Okay, anything else notable this week? Any other news items?
Oh, yes, Real Madrid made a signing on deadline day.
Oh.
Derek Zoolander, the well-known film artist and fashion man, has signed for Real Madrid, paraded in front of the crowds, quite ironically in the unfashionable grey kit that they wear. But I'm sure it was he'll be challenging on CR7 for that left wing spot and will be collecting the Ballon d'Or in some blue steel look that he has.
Yes, that's quite the image.
I've got to throw some celebrity news because you're just stealing it at the moment.
I haven't really got any celebrity news this week either. So
one up.
Good job that you had some. Right, okay. Let's obviously we'll keep in touch with Spain next week, and as usual, tweet your questions to Tom. He'll be happy to answer them. I will hand over the illustrious reins of power to Mr. Welsh now, and we will swing it Frenchward and this week's Ligue 1.
Okay, so I'm in charge again. This is always fun. I can mess about with everything. No, I will do it properly. Chris, now I'm fairly sure a little while ago you said that Monaco were going to go on a decent run and really push for the Champions League spots. How did they get on this week?
Well, they have been on a good run, in fairness, so I'll stand by that. But this week, the wheels came falling off in spectacular fashion. They were beaten away at Plucky or lovely or delightful Angers. They're them and Gazalek. They're just lovely, aren't they? But Angers 3-0 winners, and one of my favourite players, as you will all know from previous podcasts, Shaken Doy. Not only did he give the club a boost by stating that he was going to stay at least until the end of the season, but he also scored 2 goals. The skipper, 2-headed goals, and Monaco were in trouble. And the new signing Yatara bagging the third goal. And Monaco well and truly beaten. I think it was a bit of a surprise, in fairness. Monaco have been pretty solid in recent weeks, and as you mentioned there, they have been on a fairly decent run of form. It's 5 games unbeaten at home for Angers, but Monaco's first defeat in 10 games. So a real coupon buster. Another interesting fact in this game, Monaco actually had to print up their training gear to wear as a shirt, because their home shirt obviously red and white, so it's white clashes with Angers. Their away kit's navy, so it would clash with the dark or the black of Angers shorts and socks. And their third kit is white, so you do the maths on that one. So they had to print their all-red training shirts to use as shirts. So they'll be on eBay somewhere and probably will making a lot of money. But really good result for Angers, and they just won't go away from the top half of the table.
Oh, wonderful little result for them. Now let's talk about our favourite team from Corsica. How did they get on at home to Montpellier?
I worry that the dream is dying. It's 2 defeats on the spin for Gazalek, but this was a real surprise. Montpellier were the visitors in Corsica, and they ran out 4-0 winners. I honestly, nobody saw this coming, least of all me. But it's only the second time that Montpellier have actually won in Liga this season. That's 2 wins from 11 games. That gives you an idea of how big the surprise was. But goals from Yata Bare, 2 from Brian Darbo, the right back, and a penalty from Martin getting the points for Montpellier, who, it has to be said, were quite impressive. We'll touch on the news about a few bits and bobs that has happened at Montpellier this week, but yeah, they're on a winning run as far as this game goes. Hopefully they'll think it will be the start of a winning run. It's their first win in 5. And it was points that they really did need. It only puts them up by 1 spot in the table, but to win away from home obviously is vital. And Gazalek, they're not in serious trouble, but as I say, 2 defeats on the spin and only 2 draws before that. They'll want to get back on the winning train a little sooner rather than later, because Liga is quite congested at the bottom, as we'll touch on in a minute.
Yeah, come on, Gazalek, pull your finger out. That's terrible. Now, if you're a Corsican and you're listening, hello. But there is some good news as long as you support Bastia, because they got a win.
Well, you'd think so. It's definitely good news this week. Again, we'll touch on Bastia in a second, because they have had a change of manager, and it worked rather well. But yes, they were playing host to Lyon, who I will touch on a little bit in a second, but it's a massive win for Bastia. It's their 4th win in 5 at home, so they are making at least the home form vital in their surge up the table. It is 3 wins from the last 5, so they're on the turn, but that they still didn't really convince, it has to be said, and Lyon were much the dominant side for long periods of the game. But a goal from Brandao, 69th minute. So I suppose it wasn't that late, but late or midway into the second half, got them all 3 points. They did have yet another red card. Their disciplinary record is shocking, and Sione was sent off in the 88th minute for a fairly innocuous challenge, it has to be said, on Grenier, but he was walking a tight line and he was dismissed. But Bastia held on, they got the points, and they're up in the table into mid-table now. But again, with this close sort of situation in Liga, it's going to be a toughie. So they'll need to keep winning as far as home games goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I should touch on Lyon though. Actually, just on their form. I mean, they're a mess. It has to be said. They have, what is it now? They're 1 win in 10. I mean, that is, well, what do you say? I mean, 1 win in 10 is just form that you can't be happy with. And if you're a club of their standing, where do they turn next? They've changed managers, they've changed players. They've attempted to bring in players that have not wanted to sign. They still have obviously no Fakir. It's just a real worry for the situation, and as long as this keeps going on, you have to think that they're going to sell even more players in the summer and a rebuilding job, and all this on the back of a new stadium. So it's a real concern for Lyon fans, and a real fall from grace from a side that this time last year was second in the league.
Yeah, it's not a great result after last season's sort of real push. I know they faltered at the end, but they were really challenging for the title for so long. Now, on to those title winners from last season, PSG. Have they been beaten yet? Because I think they're about to set a new record, aren't they?
Yep, they are indeed. Against Lorient on Wednesday. Oh God, yeah, Lorient go to the Parc des Princes on Wednesday, and PSG have got a record in their sights. They won 2-0 at the Stade Geoffroy Guichard on Sunday night against St Etienne. They played in third gear the whole game. I mean, it was such an embarrassing level of difference in quality, and that man Zlatan popped up with both goals. One at sort of kind of the early period of the second half, well, 20 minutes in, and a late second concluded the points for PSG. But as you rightly say, I mean, they just keep winning. They have. They've won a record or record setting, and they're on the brink of it. 13 consecutive wins now in Liga, and they're without a loss in 32 matches. So if they do go to Lorient or if they play Lorient and beat them, or indeed avoid defeat, they will actually beat Nantes' 20-year record of an unbeaten run in Liga. So 20 years, that could be on the way out. But as much as I love Lorient, and I do deeply, I don't think that they're gonna pose too much of an issue to PSG. And just to put it into context, as where we were last season, Lyon, who now have 30 points, PSG are 33 points clear of Lyon this current period of time in the table.
That is slightly ridiculous.
Isn't
You know, if you say so 13 games. That's, you know, it's unlucky for some. I think it's probably going to be unlucky for Lorient, but there we go.
Sadly, yes, sadly.
Also, the Stade Geoffroy Guichard, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Stade Geoffroy Guichard, yes, indeed.
Yeah, that's
Or
just-
Guichard, sorry.
Guichard,
Yes.
sorry, yeah, the Stade Geoffroy Guichard. That's just one
Tongue
of my
twister.
favourite names, stadiums as well. That's marvellous.
Indeed.
Anyway,
I agree with you, by the way.
sidetracked. Could you give us the other results and the table as it stands?
Certainly can. So Friday, Marseille got out of jail late. Lille 1-0 up for a long period. Courtier getting the goal, but a very, very late 94th, 95th minute equaliser from Rabila, who's one of their young players, got the leveller after Berard had been sent off. That ended 1-1. Troyes, they're back to normal form this week. They lost at home to Nantes. Gillet getting the winner. Gazalec, we mentioned them, sorry. Toulouse, they lost at home to Guingamp. Big result that for Guingamp, actually, by 2-1. Sankare and Jeffrey Briand getting the winner in that game. Wissam Ben Yedder with a penalty for Toulouse. It was in vain. Danny's Khan, they are back to winning ways, beating Nice. They won by 2-0. Rodi Rodelan and Andy Delort from the penalty spot. The 2-0 victory there. Bordeaux went goal crazy. They never score goals, but this weekend they got 4. 2 for Diabate, 1 for Diego Roland, and 1 late from Thomas Touré. 4-0 victory over Rennes. That was a real surprise result in truth, maybe certainly by that scoreline anyway. Where does that leave the table? Well, PSG are indeed top, 63 points. And you have to go all the way back to 39 points. Monaco are still second, just about. But Angers, with their victory over Monaco, are nepping at their heels again on 37 points in third. Nice in fourth, despite their defeat on 36. Caen join them on 36 in fifth. Rennes fall to 6 on 34. And then just to pick out a couple in the mid-table there, Marseille 10th, as we mentioned. Lyon are 11th. Then the bottom end, Troyes. Again, doomed, 11 points from 23 games bottom. Toulouse, 20 points on 19th. 18th, Reims, 23. 17th, Montpellier, 25. 16th, Gazalec on 26, along with Lille in 15th on 26, and then Guingamp on 27. But just to give you an idea, looking from Montpellier, who are just outside the relegation zone on 25 points, you could go all the way up to Marseille, who've only got 31 points in 10th. So it is getting very, very tight as far as the bottom end goes.
Okay, Chris, if you want to give us any other news and a game to pick out, I believe there's some midweek fixtures as well.
Yes, I certainly can. There's a full midweek programme. So Tuesday you've got Monaco, Bastia, Montpellier and Marseille. Wednesday you've got Guingamp, Troyes, Nantes, Gazalec, Lille host Caen, Nice, Toulouse, Lyon, Bordeaux, Reims, Angers and PSG Lorient, as we mentioned before. And on Thursday you've got Rennes against St Etienne. Just to pick out 2 fixtures really. or well, just really the fixture for midweek that would be worth tuning in for is Lyon and Bordeaux. I think that's probably going to be worth a watch. And Marseille PSG, as we said, will be the Sunday fixture to look out for. As far as news this week, Bastia, they showed their coach the door, as the old saying goes. Prior to their victory over Lyon, they sacked the coach Ghislain Priton and replaced him with boss Francois Cicciolini, who got the first win in that game over Lyon. So it's got to be a bit of a bonus. Elsewhere, there was another firing. Montpellier. They announced that Frederick Hans is the club's new head coach after they elected to part company with their previous setup there. They had Pascal Ballis and Bruno Martini until the end of the season, so that really wasn't kind of working. So they've decided to replace, or the former Montpellier coach indeed has come in to replace them. So we shall see how that works out. But obviously a good result for Montpellier. The headline on Ligue 1's page was Hampton named to head up Montpellier rescue mission. So it's pretty clear what they want to happen there. And of course, their former coach Roland Courbis resigned, and that was why they had Ballis and Martini in place before that. So we'll see how that ends up. Just a quickie. As far as Lorient made a couple of signings this week, which I'm pleased about, so I wanted to mention Jimmy Cabot, who we mentioned in the last pod, has joined from Troyes, which is great news, as well as Lindsay Rose. That one's gone through, so I'm pleased about that. And on a kind of a sidebar here, Michel, the Marseille manager, Marseille are apparently, as of tonight, looking to replace him at the end of the season. The news comes after Michel apparently appeared to criticise the board for bringing in Florian Thauvin without his approval. He was basically saying, I don't think we need the player, so that's a real bonus for him returning to the side. So there's a lot of talk that he is going to go walkies. And the final bit of news is a mystery Saudi prince and an Englishman are apparently the men taking over Nice. So more on that as we get it. But yeah, apparently he's a Manchester United supporting British businessman, and a mystery Saudi prince have purchased 49%, which could eventually rise to 80% of Nice. So that club has been sold. So that will be interesting to see what happens there as well.
Oh, very interesting. Sounds like the start of a terrible joke, but yeah.
Yes, and we should of course say as well, Marseille are also up for sale. So, and their asking price apparently is 100 million euros, which sounds like a lot, but for a club of Marseille's tradition, and
It seems could be a bargain, yeah.
Yeah, with Dreyfus or Louis Dreyfus, Margarita Louis Dreyfus, to give her a full name. She's off. So yeah, we shall see. See.
Well, I'll hand back over the reins to you then, Chris.
Thank you very much. And I will come over to Drew as we check out what's happened in Germany this weekend, and we talk a bit of Bundesliga. Right then, Drew, let's start with the game that John had much pain talking about earlier on. Mainz on the Friday night, beating Borussia Mönchengladbach by 1-0. Talk to me, first of all, with the game itself, but what was that kit about?
Well, you and I talked about it earlier. I honestly, there's too many Bundesliga kits coming out right now, or German kits in general, that are just quite distasteful. I don't know why they went for I don't know. It looks like they're doing something out of Sesame
That was
Street.
the Carnival kit, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's awful.
Oh, it was dreadful. Yeah.
I don't know what to say about it, apart from the fact that I hope that they maybe come to their senses and somehow come up with a different one. I don't know, but in regards to the match, I agree with John that Gladbach weren't absolutely awful, but they could have been much, much better. I think Mainz actually outplayed them. The chances were even, 13-12, but I think the general run of play, I think Mainz actually ran out deserved winners, despite that Loris Karius save that I know you guys were drooling over earlier. But, they won the 50-50 challenges. They were much better in the tackle. They forced more set-piece situations. And Gladbach wasn't good with their possession at times. They dispossessed the ball quite a few moments. So they just didn't do enough. And for me, despite the fact that they created more clear-cut chances. They actually tested carries more. Actually, I think Mainz only registered 2 shots on frame all match. All they needed was Christian Clemens to strike, and I think it's more worrying times for Gladbach, honestly. I think Andre Hahn and Patrick Herrmann coming back, they don't know when, but soon that's going to help Gladbach quite a bit because, honestly, if you look at the 11 that Schubert put out, kind of questionable. He had Fabian Johnson playing in center midfield. Lars Stindl played center midfield. Jonas Hoffman, who just signed, he came in, but he did not do all that well. So it's going to take him time to settle. So he can't be relied on at the moment. Harvard Nordtveit by himself at holding midfielder is kind of a liability. I don't think he's mobile enough to be the lone sort of deeper midfielder. I think that actually kind of cost him a bit. So it's not over yet, obviously, but Gladbach needs to turn their form around kind of soon. It's getting pretty tight between that 4th to 8th place spot. So yeah, they need to start turning things around more consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone that hasn't seen that save, please look it up. It was very, 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 very good. Superb save. Anyway, more on Karius later. Let's move to Bremen and Hertha. Now, I appreciate we've got time limits to keep to, but this one, so much happened. So do your best.
I mean, a lot happened at Goal Fest, and you don't say that a lot in Hertha matches in regards to how many goals they score, but also how many goals they allow. I think this is the most they've allowed in one match all season. I could be wrong, but them allowing 3 in a match, it hasn't really happened. The thing for me though, it's one of those. I don't know. I think they just took their foot off the gas. I think as Arsenal fans, we know how that goes. Sometimes they were up 3-1, and then Claudio Pizarro scored from the spot, and then 2 minutes later, he got the equalizer. So I think once they went up 3-1, that was that. They just that moment of mental fragility kind of cost them, and Pizarro bagged a brace in a 2-minute span, and I think they'll feel hard done. I think Bremen didn't play poorly, though, actually, to be honest, but despite the fact that Bremen outplayed Hertha, I think when you're up 3-1, no matter if the other team's playing better than you are necessarily, I think that's got to be 3 points in the bag, even if you are on the road. So, but it's not all lost for Hertha yet. They're still sitting comfortably, kind of comfortably in third. They still have that 3-point cushion by Leverkusen. So, they're going to be that's why they'll be disappointed though. But it's good news for Bremen because they're out of the guaranteed relegation spots. They're not sitting in 16th. They've gotten 4 points out of their last 6. So I just think that they made those players finally feel like they have something to play for, and I think it showed in this match, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And Claudio Pizarro, goal machine. 2
Yes.
in 2 minutes. Gotta love that. Retro, love it.
I do believe he's the all-time leading non-German goal scorer in Bundesliga right now. Or history, actually.
Sounds right. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to go with that. Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah.
What a ledge. Right, let's talk about Stuttgart. They are obviously they're looking to turn their form around, and they started off sort of after the winter break with a win, and this weekend they entertained Hamburg, who themselves are they've had a fairly good season after last year, but they're falling down the table recently. How did this one end up?
Well, the Jurgen Kramny revolution rolls on. They actually won 2-1. And honestly, I watched this match throughout, and I've got to say, if Timo Werner had his shooting boots on, it should have been like 4 or 5-0, honestly. He spurned a host of chances. Should have been on a hat trick. But it's 3 points. That's all that matters. But they're just playing so much better. They've been so lethal in the counterattack under Kramny since he's come in. I know if Werner didn't play well, he didn't tuck those chances away, but he's been absolutely instrumental in them creating chances, but also creating space for David to come in behind him after he makes his run. Philip Kostic played very, very well. Christian Gettner is giving some, and Seri D have been stable in the middle. So they've just looked so improved. But the problem with Hamburg, however, you're seeing signs of what saw them struggle the last 2 seasons, honestly. They're just not doing enough, and you can't really rely on Lewis Holtby to be your best player week in, week out and expect results. He's playing well, but looks susceptible at the back, even though Kleber played pretty well. Osterlozic played well as well, but for me, from 1 to 11 back to front, they're not doing well enough, and they don't have depth. They have to bring on Mikhail Grigoric and Artem Rudnevs for potential goal sources, and neither of those guys are really established goal scorers. So for me, they're just struggling, and especially in the goals department, and I think it might come back to bite them. They've lost 4 of their last 5, but Stuttgart are out of the bottom 3 now. They're actually sitting in 15th. They've won 3, drawn 2, and they have not tasted defeat since Kramny's debut against Borussia Dortmund. So it's looking good for them at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. A real turnaround in form. It's good to see because they
Yeah.
are one of the sides you'd like to see do well. What about Wolfsburg? Their form has been patchy, to say the very least, or best, whichever way you look at it. They entertained FC Köln on Sunday in the early game, and more dropped points.
Well, I think it's a little more than patchy. Apart from Hanover, they're the worst informed team in the Bundesliga. They haven't lost. They haven't won in their last six. They've only scored six. They've allowed 10. So they're not leaking goals, but they're not scoring goals. And I think when Bastos went down injured, that only sort of compounded the problem. They have to rely on Andres Schürrle playing at striker and Max Cruz. I know John can probably speak relatively highly about Max Cruz, but I think Bastos is arguably one of the best strikers in the Bundesliga. When you look past, the big guys, Lewandowski, Aubameyang, and Muller and those types, Bastos is a very, very good finisher. He's very, very good in the box, and that's what Wolfsburg sort of built around when they had him and Kevin De Bruyne playing so well together. So losing De Bruyne to the transfer market and now losing Dost to injury at sort of the wrong time when they need to compete, try and get back into the running for solidifying the top three or top four place is very, very bad timing. They just don't do enough as well. I don't know. But you have to give Cologne credit. They defended very, 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 very well. They kept their shape very, very well. They won the majority of the 50-50 balls. They were excellent in the tackle. And Hamburg wasn't good with possession, so it was kind of like almost like a Gladbach syndrome. They had the lion's share, but they were dispossessed quite a few times. They didn't create very, very, very excellent scoring chances throughout, despite the quality gap and despite Draxler and Verena playing very, very well. No one else really could sort of step up and take the chances they needed to. So more drop points, and Dieter Hecking is not going to be happy right now because if I look at the table real quick, they're now sitting in 7th, 2 points off of 6th, but now they have to fight, Mainz and Cologne are the teams around them that they have to contend with right now. So it's not what they wanted to see. It's not looking good at the moment.
No, it's real sort of an odd one because they've got plenty of money at their disposal, just not working right now. What about the other results and indeed the table from this weekend?
Sure. Well, Borussia Dortmund won 2-0 at home against Ingolstadt, despite the scoreline. Ingolstadt losing all 3 points, they actually played well. So I think honestly, on performances like that, I think they'll stay up. Bayer Leverkusen won 3-0. Augsburg drew 0-0. Darmstadt lost 2-0 at home to Schalke, and Bayern Munich won 2-0 against Hoffenheim in a comfortable performance. So the table, it's Bayern still top. That's probably not going to change. First on 52, Dortmund second on 44, Hertha third on 34, Bayer Leverkusen fourth on 31, Schalke fifth on 30, and Borussia Mönchengladbach sixth on 29. Hanover is sitting bottom on 14. They've lost 5 in a row. Hoffenheim are up to, well, technically they're up to 17th, but they after that win for 3 match days ago, they've now lost 2 and drawn 1 in their last 3, so they're 17th on 14, and Werder Bremen, as I said before, they're 16th on 19.
And how about any or the fixture for next week to look out for?
Well, it's going to be 2, and I can't decide. we have 2 very tasty matches. So Hertha versus Borussia Dortmund, second versus third. Hertha host, and then Bayer Leverkusen play host to Bayern Munich, so 1v4. So 2 excellent, very tasty matches, both on Saturday. The Bayer Leverkusen one is the late match, and Hertha Borussia Dortmund's at so 9:30 a.m. my time, so you can do the math. 2:30 p.m. your time.
All over the Leverkusen game. That looks pretty good,
Yeah.
has to be said.
Yeah.
Right, before we leave Bundesliga, we're just going to have a quick chat just with all of us about the Pep Guardiola announcement that happened today. For those people that live under a rock, what happened today, Drew?
Well, it's been official, made official rather. Pep has confirmed that he'll be going to Manchester City in the summer. It's not really a surprise. We've all debated it with a lot of people, and everyone was speculating, Chelsea, City, maybe Arsenal, but, Chelsea, United, Arsenal, maybe, but we'd all kind of figured it'd be City. But Tom and I spoke about it at length earlier. I don't know if you and John saw it, so we won't go into it, but we both think that the job might be a little more harder than people give credit, despite City having gobs of money. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but don't be surprised. He's going to come in there with a plan. Before he gets there, he might already know who he wants to bring in, who he wants to let go. He's going to try to impose his will and his style of play quickly. So players like Raheem Sterling will have a future, but players like Yaya Toure might actually not. It's going to be interesting times in the summer, but I can expect City to win a title within the next 2 years, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm going to ask. I'm just going to ask John and Tom a question each on this one, because nobody needs to know what I think. As I'm just the host. I just run this thing. John, I'm going to ask you first of all, for Manchester City's point of view, do you think that they are bringing in Pep with a view to making that giant step to the Champions League? And do you expect him to be a success as far as the domestic level goes, with the amount of games we play in the Premier League and all the cliches that go with it?
I think domestically he will be. It'll be a change, obviously, because the pace of the league is different. He hasn't been here before. He's never really used players that are used to this sort of league. But he's got the ability as a coach, and he's got experience against English teams in the Champions League. Obviously, the style you play in Europe, in European competitions, is different. As to the reason why, I think City have done it because he is the best manager available. There's no doubt about that. They've wanted him for a long time. That's why they brought in some of the board members that they did, who are ex-Barca board members, who he knows and he gets on well with. He's spoken to before. It will be interesting to see what players come in at City. Obviously, we know how much money they've got to spend, but there will probably be There'll be a few players you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense. You can see them spending a lot of money, but there'll probably be a few other ones you go, I don't see why they're buying him, but Pep will have a reason why. A bit like when Diego Costa went to, Douglas Costa went to Bayern. I think people thought he was a good player, but they weren't really convinced he could do it at Bayern, and I certainly wasn't. And we were really proved wrong there. So, Pep knows how to spot players and players for the things he needs. So I'm sure, like Drew said, he's already got people in mind who he wants to bring in there and what things will change. But you'll definitely see a lot of outs from City as well, because there are some players in that squad that just aren't going to be up to Pep's level.
Yeah, perfectly segued for my other question, which is for Tom. Tom, as a man who's sort of witnessed the Guardiola regime at Barcelona and what he did with that club, I'm just intrigued to know how many players you think, particularly Spanish players, that he might look to bring in at City, and indeed how many you think he might want to get rid of.
It's interesting. As John touched on about Yaya, I can see Yaya going. It speaks of the Ronaldinho sort of esque leaving when he came into Barcelona, realised that his time was done at Barca, and he shipped him off to AC Milan, and that you could see that happening with Yaya as well, just to suit his style of play. The back four of City, I class none of them as world class, so I think you'll see a lot of chopping and changing there, which could actually affect how they do next season. Because obviously making a team gel is also quite difficult. In terms of Spanish players coming in, me and Drew were talking about it. We think we can see Thiago Alcantara being moved as well following Pep. He loves him. Also, Drew tried to make me cry and suggesting Alaba could move, which annoyingly I could kind of see happening, and then you won't hear from me because I'll be under a rock for many more years after that. But other players, honestly, your guess is as good as mine. He's a man who's open to all options in terms of players that he could sign. He loves a lot of the Barca players. He loves Busquets. He loves Pedro, but Pedro's past it now. But it'll be interesting to see what it does. I think it'll be hard to convert Man City's style of play to Pep's, to be honest, if I'm going to be brutal about it, because they're not a Barca and they're not a Bayern and they don't play that way. So I'll be interested to see how they do.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the only thing I would add from a personal perspective is I'll be, as I said to Drew and Tom earlier on, I'll be really interested to see how the sort of the regime goes if a few results go against him, whether players turn, whether he indeed turns, and obviously he's going to have to deal with the English media, which might be a baptism of fire. We shall see.
The other funny thing is that his best mate could be rocking up at Manchester City's derby rivals, Manchester United, and we know how much Mourinho got under Pep's skin.
Yeah.
That would I'd hate to think that if you're Pep Guardiola thinking, oh God, I'm about to take this big job, and that idiot Mourinho's turning up, who I really can't stand.
I was going to say it is
in a weird
almost
kind of twisted way. I do as well, yeah, Tom.
It's almost written, and at least it would inject some spice back into that rivalry, because it's almost like United fans have accepted that City have sort of gone past them in the current phase of play, not historically maybe, but over the current time. So, yeah, we'll be across it obviously, and until the end of the season. I'm sure over the summer when there's no games, I'm sure we'll have plenty more time to discuss this in more depth with the ins and outs. So we will no doubt come back to it. But thank you you as always, Drew, and thank you to you guys for your opinions.
Oh, and lastly, just to quickly say, I know we're rushed for time, but just last to say, I do feel very sorry for Pellegrini, who's done absolutely nothing wrong in that job. And sort of the same thing kind of really happened to him at Madrid. He was kind of just left out, hung out to dry there as well. So
yeah, and I agree with Tom. Actually, Valencia seems a good fit. I think if they can sort that out. So yeah, we'll see. But no, fair play to Pellegrini, one of the seemingly gentlemen left in the game. So fair play to him. Right, let's move on then. Let's leave our European roundups. There's no rest of the world this week again, purely because, again, other than sort of Portugal, a lot of Belgium, there's not many other leagues that are in action. I should say Holland as well, but Druki's is that day on finals. So there's not many of our leagues that are back in full swing yet. So we will come back to those in the coming weeks. But let's move on and let's take a trip into the Hipsters section marked choice. Indeed, for this week's Hipsters choice. Right then, this week I've plumped for the Bundesliga. I've been wanting to do this man for a lot. That sounds a bit wrong. I've been wanting to talk about this man for a number of weeks. I absolutely love him. So let's dive straight in. This week I have decided to go for Alexander Meyer. So what do we know about Alex Meyer? Well, he's got a lovely ponytail. More than that, though, he was born on the 17th of January 1983, the same year I was born, and in fact he was only born, 8 days before I was. There you go. He is indeed German. He's 6'5", and he's 185 pounds. He wears the number 14 shirt for Frankfurt, and he's dubbed as an attacking midfielder / forward. I think he's a forward myself. He's right-footed, and he represents Puma as far as his boots goes. He wears the Eva Power 1.2s. So what do we know? He was born in Buchholz, West Germany, which is 25 kilometres southwest of Hamburg, in 1983. He played as a youth in a number of the Hamburg area clubs before starting his senior career with FC St. Pauli in 2001, aged 18. And after a brief stint at Hamburg in 2003-04, he joined Eintracht Frankfurt, where he still plays. And on July the 1st, 2004, his debut was made. He scored his first goal in a 1-1 draw against Arminia Aachen. That was in the second Bundesliga, and in the first season he scored 10 goals in 37 appearances, all comps, helping Eintracht win promotion to the Bundesliga after finishing third in Bundesliga 2. In 2015-16, the current season, this is his 12th season with Eintracht. All but 2 of those seasons were in the Bundesliga, and the team was in Bundesliga 2 when Meyer joined, as we said before, in 04-05 season. They were relegated in 2011-12, in which Meyer showed his true loyalty to the club, Gigi Buffon style, going down with them but helping them back to promotion, right back into the Bundesliga. He made his European debut in 06-07 in a 2-1 UEFA Cup loss against Palermo. And in 2007-8, he was sidelined for a lengthy period of time with a knee injury that required surgery. So he's managed to battle back from that as well. He's made 346 appearances for Eintracht Frankfurt and has scored 129 goals. And he's currently the 4th highest all-time scorer at the club, but will likely surpass Jurgen Grabowski's 137 goals. And the all-time top scorer, Bernd Holzenbein, I hope I pronounced that, he is their all-time top scorer with 201, for those of you taking notes. And over the past 4 seasons, albeit one in Bundesliga 2, he's scored 15 or more goals. Last season, aged at 32, he was the Bundesliga's top scorer with 19 and 26, and he finished ahead of the likes of Lewandowski and Arjen Robben. And that was all despite missing the last 7 games with injury as well, and Eintracht finished in 9th. And in 2014, he was rated as the 10th best player, tied with Marco Reus in the Bundesliga with 19 goals, 2 assists, 6 man of the match performances, 3.1 shots per game, and 5.3 aerial duels won, with a 66.3% pass success ratio. And picking up where he left off, last season Meyer has scored 10 goals in 15 appearances in the 2015-16 season so far, and he didn't exactly start on fire, so that he's very much picked up of recent times. He's made 15 appearances, 1,298 minutes, 10 goals, which is tied 5th in the Bundesliga charts, 1 assist, no yellows, 1 red, naughty. He averages 2.7 shots per game, a pass success ratio of 67.9. He's been man of the match 3 times, and he gets an average rating from WhoScored.com of 7.35, which is, for those of you who are interested, 21st best player in the Bundesliga apparently. And a couple of other bits and bobs to bring you up to date with. In 2014-15, he was the Golden Boot winner. He played under the coach Thomas Schaff in a 4-1-2-1-2 or a 4-4-2 formation. This season, playing under Armin Vey, he's returned to the club this season under the manager, he returned to the club after an unsuccessful stint at Stuttgart. He's typically employed behind two strikers in Armin Vey's formation. And at 6'5", he's a physical presence and is very good in the air, but surprisingly quick to pounce on loose balls. And has shown composure in front of goal. He scores a variety of different goals. And given his size, he isn't the paciest of players like me, he is prone to he's not really prone to wowing people with trickery, certainly like me. However, he does his job incredibly effectively, not like me. And it's shooting that Maya, despite being the expected sort of veteran at the age of 32, he's still devoted to training sessions. My dad taught me to shoot like that, he said. Roger Federer hits his forehand over and over again, even though he's already perfected it. I've always practiced, he said, referring to the technique of connecting sweetly with an instep of his right foot, and a method that has become something of a trademark. Just to tie it all up, he has played for the German under-21s, but never for the senior team. Right, I'm obviously going to come to Drew, but just before I do, John, you've got a little saying that I love, and I totally agree with. What is it that you say about Alexander Bayer?
Don't let him shoot.
Yes, exactly that. Love it. So, Drew, just give us a little brief sort of rundown on your thoughts on the man who's sometimes dubbed budget Zlatan. Bit harsh, but you can see the comparisons. What do you make of Big Alex?
Honestly, I'll make a different comparison. He almost reminds me a little bit of Alan Shearer. He's got that same style. Shearer was never pacey, but he was never the one to dazzle you on the ball, but he was always so good at doing the simple things, completely spot on, and he was the linchpin for the entire attack. Meyer is what makes, Eintracht Frankfurt's attack sort of taken away. If he gets a clear-cut chance, he's probably going to score. He's absolutely clinical in that regard. So I think it's nice to have someone in the Bundesliga that's becoming quickly one of the top leagues in regards to ability, especially younger players and technical ability. He's a throwback to sort of like days gone by in a way, and I just like watching that also. And he's definitely not pacey at all, but even if he was 35 yards out, he'd have a crack, and he actually may even score. So it's just nice to see someone who can sort of still deploy the the dark arts, if it were, because it's just not
old school mentality.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not what you see anymore, but it's nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want an example of how good he can be sort of from distance or in front of goal, just watch the highlights of the victory last week where he grabbed a hat-trick. It's just encapsulated him perfectly in a game. So I love him to bits. He's very hipster, I have to say. There was going to be a hipster's choice. I mean, he's right in there. And he's only the second hipster's choice we've had that's been of an older generation, Zlatan being the other. So there you go. I will, of course, post a link on our website with this little hipster's choice. If you want to listen back, you can do. And you can indeed follow how Mr. Meyer gets on. I will tell you, Eintracht are at home to Stuttgart at 2:30 UK time on Saturday of this upcoming week. So there you go, if you want to tune in.
So we've had actual Zlatan and we've had budget Zlatan. So when are we going to get prospect Zlatan come out?
I suppose that would be our Nautovic, wouldn't it?
Well,
technically, yeah. With the hair. We'll have to find another.
Or Nautovic is fraud Zlatan, sorry. Apologies, fans.
I
didn't know I'm
shared
happy
this in
with
Austria.
Inter.
We got followed by a couple of Stoke fans today, so if they're listening,
There
they're
that
very
goes.
upset. They'll be coming for you, John.
Yeah,
But
we lost those followers.
yeah, they're gone. But welcome, gentlemen, if you're listening. Right, super stuff. Okay, so that's Alex Meyer. Thank you to Kelly for the kind putting together of notes. As usual, we really appreciate it. So let's move on then, and we're in the final stretch. Let's have a look at this week's decisions on Team of the Week. Right, this week's Team of the Week then. Let's get the old stopwatch rocking and rolling. This week, John, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I have switched and I've taken away the 3-5-2. I know it's a popular choice with you with the old Italian setup, but this week I've had to revert, and I've gone with a 4-5-1, if you will, or a 4-1-4-1 maybe. Anyway, I digress. So let's cue up the old jingle, and let's get into this week's team of the week. So in goal, you might have guessed this from the earlier conversations we had, but I've gone with Loris Karius from Mainz for that incredible save against Mönchengladbach. Sorry, John, I keep mentioning it, but it was a stunning save, has to be said. So he gets the vote in goal for that save alone, really. Brian Darbo, the Montpellier right back, second time he's made team of the week for this pod. He scored 2 goals from right back / right wing back in the 4-0 win over Gazalec Ajaccio. Left back, I've gone for Mikel Balenciaga from Bilbao, set up the winner for Tom's favourite Iñaki Williams away at Getafe. Centre back pairing, Alex from AC Milan. Much as it pains me to say it, he headed the opener. He created the spark for Milan in the derby win over Inter, and overall was pretty solid, even though he could have walked, as John mentioned earlier. And he's joined by Zargo Toure, the first Lorient player to make team of the week. Happy days. He slots in at centre half, 2 goals from centre back. I mean, you can't not have a centre back in with 2 goals, can you? You've got to have him in there. So he gets the vote as centre back partner. Moving into the midfield, just the one holding player, Chaikendoy from Angers. Again, what can be said about him? Love him. He's a captain, leader by example, the powerhouse in the midfield. 2 goals from headers against Monaco. And the wide men joining him, Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't need to say too much, really, do I? Another hat-trick, totally dominant against Espanyol at home. He plays on the left wing. And somewhat surprisingly, I've gone with Kevin Campbell on the right-hand side of midfield. A player that hasn't quite fulfilled his potential, but was very, very good for Leverkusen in the midfield, grabbing an assist. And very underrated game, I thought, against Hanover. So he gets the vote.
Legend.
Absolutely. The 2 kind of forwards in behind a forward, if you will. I've gone with Jose Callahan. Napoli, they love scoring goals, don't they? 2 late goals for Callahan and a string of excellent runs versus Empoli in the 5-1 victory. And Alvaro Morata back to form. 2 Spanish players there up front for Juventus. 2 goals after the midweek brace against Inter as well. He seems to be right back at it. And up front, I've gone with Cheikh Diabate, the Bordeaux man. He can't stop scoring right now. 7 in 7. 2 goals this weekend against Nantes. He led the line and was superb. So, good victory that for Bordeaux. Sorry, against Rennes, I should say, not Nantes. Superb for him. Let's round off the substitutes bench. Mikel Gonzalez from Sociedad. He scored the 2nd goal from centre-back in the 2-1 victory over Betis. Alan for Napoli, very underrated performance. Although the goal-getters get the headlines, he was superb, controlling the midfield for Napoli. Raja Nainggolan, one of my John's favourites, scored the bizarre goal for Roma from on his back, seemingly, in that victory for Frosinone. Oscar from Chelsea, I couldn't put him in the first team lineup because it was only against MK Dons, but he did get a hat-trick in the FA Cup this weekend. Speaking of which, so did the next 2. Kelechi Iheanacho for Man City, hat-trick away at Aston Villa. He really does look quite the prospect. And the on-loan Arsenal man at Hull City, Chuba Akpom, becomes the first player that I've picked out of the top flight, if you will. First career hat-trick against Bury in the FA Cup. And rounding off the lineup, I've gone with Bai Niang from AC Milan, who scored the clinching 3rd goal versus Inter in the derby, and his movement was a constant threat throughout the game. So there you go, that's this week's team of the week. As always, we will post that on our Twitter account so you can have a little butchers at how it lines up. And if you've got any questions, ping them across to us. And we'll again keep our eyes on EA Sports this week and see if we get any players. We had a good week again last week, quite a few that made the team that we picked. So we're obviously doing something right. Okay, let's move on then to our final section this week, and it's your questions answered. It's time for the Onion Bag. Right then, gentlemen, as usual, I shall give you smidgens time restraints on this one. I don't want to bore our listeners to tears, but we had some really good questions this week, so keep your answers to the point. I'm going to start with Tom. It's a question for you at Real Josh Door. Josh wants to know, how unsurprised were you that when the two Madrid clubs' transfer bans were suspended, which I believe means they can still sign people in the summer? What did you make of it?
I wasn't surprised whatsoever. I think it's more the fact like it's the same that what happened with Barca. It's the same route that both clubs took. They both appealed it. I'm not versed in the ins and outs of what's really going on and who's been involved and like what players are. I do know that Zidane's kids have been involved in it, which is odd because he is the manager, so he sort of lives in Madrid, which will sort of cancel out why they could file a lawsuit against them. But I'm not surprised. they'll be able to sign players, and if a ban does come, which I'm sure it probably will, they've allowed them to suspend it in terms of that they're going to get loads of players in the summer. And the only thing that worries me about it is that that does free up Mr. Antoine Griezmann possible to a move, and I know Chelsea are very interested.
Yes, and a certain Manchester United goalkeeper might be quite pleased about the outcome of this result as well. We shall see what happens in the summer. One for you, John. One of my favourites, Pigman J. Hamkenstein. Still love that act, Pigmandia. He wants to know, what are the odds on El Shaarawy rediscovering form in Rome? Something approaching a purple patch that he had with Milan in Serie A. John, do you think this is the remaking of the Pharaoh?
It's hard to tell. I said earlier that I think it's a good move, and I hope it does come off, because I really do like El Shaarawy. He's got all the ability and talent in the world. He just needs that consistency. He had horrible luck with injuries. The move to Monaco, I mean, I didn't see as much as him as obviously as you would have, but it seemed like a sensible move at the time just to get games. But I really hope it works out for him. Because I want him to go to the Euros and perform for Italy as well. And if it does work out, it's a huge bonus for Italy, because the one area that team is probably struggling a little bit is in the forward options.
Yeah, he's definitely didn't work at Monaco. Like you say, I thought he'd do really well, but no, for whatever reason, it just didn't work. Right, another one for Drew then. This is from Thomas Shelley at Cashod. Bundesliga question, he says, is or are Wolfsburg making a mistake by holding on to Lord Bentner? They clearly don't want him there.
Well, up until very recently, they didn't have a choice. With Bastos going out injured, I mean, they only left Max Cruz as the only striking option, but they just bought Bruno Henrique from Goiás in the Brazilian league, so he plays center forward. So he's going to be either they're splitting time with Max Cruz or playing alongside him, so Bentner goes right back down the pecking order. And I honestly just think there aren't clubs that want Nicholas Bentner. I think they'd prefer to sell than to loan out or whatever have you, so I think he's gone in the summer regardless, but didn't have a choice at the moment.
No. And when Crystal Palace bought Adebayor, I think that kind of killed any chance of him going back to
Yeah.
the Premier League. We shall see. Okay, right, let's get one from France. PG Nez, PG_Nez. He asks, my good self, should Lyon have appointed an outsider with a strong personality to try and fix their divided dressing room instead of a paternal figure like Bruno Genesio, who may lack authority? Some of the homegrown players are reportedly difficult. It's a great question, PG Nez, by the way, and I could literally talk on this for an hour, and I do love your tweets, so yeah, big fan of your good self. But I'm with you. I know why Lyon have gone for Genesio. I understand the thinking of trying to sort of put an arm around some of the younger players and try and get the dressing room back. Obviously, selling Claudio Bovu to Celta, was stage one of that, trying to get the bad eggs out of the dressing room. But it doesn't seem to be working. We said where they were in the league. Obviously, another defeat this week. One win in 11 now, and things are just not right there. And I'm concerned for Lyon, and I do wonder. I know their youth policy is fantastic, but I just wonder if they need, like you said, a stronger leader at the helm to cajole these youngsters. And I also think that maybe they're getting to a stage where in the summer it needs a clear out. You know, Alexandre Lacazette has decided pretty much that he wants to move on in the summer. Nabil Fekir, obviously, if he can get fit, will attract a lot of attention and interest from other clubs. The goalkeeper Lopez is very highly rated, and Titi at the back as well. It could be a real difficult summer for Lyon to hang on to these players, and with the sort of well-documented issues of Olas and his sort of interesting personality, it'll be an interesting one to see what happens. And if I was to put money on it now, I would suggest that Genesio, maybe this is only a short-term appointment till the end of the season. I can see a new one coming in for next season. We shall see. But tweet us your thoughts on who you think maybe it should be. That'll be interesting. Let's go back to Italy. Another one from Thomas Shelley. He wants to know, John, what will Napoli do if Higuain gets a knock? Also, Rossi is back, but for Levante, your thoughts. So we'll start with John and then go to Tom. So John, 22 and 22 for the Argentinian hitman. What on earth do they do if he gets injured?
It'll be a huge loss, obviously. It's the same as any team losing their sort of superstar striker. The difference is that in the last few games, other Napoli players have started to step up and get more goals. Obviously, it was Higuain only got one of the five in the game against Empoli. What they need to do is have him fit for the big game against Juventus. That's really the key match. That could be a title decider because Juve have everyone at home to face this season. But when you still have Insigne, Dries Mertens, who comes off on the bench, Manuel Gabbiadini, Callahan, Marek Hamsik, they do still have players to score. But if they lost Higuain, that's huge. I know you're going to go to Tom on Giuseppe Rossi, but I just wanted to say it was really nice to see one of their fans there when he turned up and went to La Liga. He went over and greeted some of the fans, and one of them was sort of crying and saying how pleased he was and how special he thought it was of Rossi to come and join them and help them out in La Liga. So I thought it was a really nice touch to see that from some fans.
Yeah, it really was. And actually, we should have mentioned earlier on. I meant to mention this to you, but Alvaro Morata buying his superfan pizza in Italy. That was a nice touch as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that. But lovely to see players. I think he invited him over and bought him a meal and signed a shirt, and it was really nice to see that. But footballers being nice, whoever thought? Tom, what do you make of Rossi coming back then? I mean, I say he scored for Levante in a defeat, unfortunately, but he was good at Villarreal. His game seems to suit Spanish football. Do you think he'll be a hit at Levante?
It's hard to say. As you say, he's great at Villarreal. He had a better goal record than 1 in 3, and even at Fiorentina, it was just over 1 in 2 in the league, I believe. So he's got pedigree. He knows the league. It's a good signing. He's better than what they have. So I don't see why it can't work out. The only problem is that, unfortunately, he's surrounded in a team which isn't blessed with quality through it. So he'll struggle for service. And the goal that he scored was extremely lucky, and it was his own doing, nicking the ball off Sevilla's Ifabora, I think it was, and then Rami, sorry, and then getting a lucky shot. So I hope he succeeds. But I don't think he's the player to keep Levante up because I think they've been doomed for a while.
Yeah, big task ahead, but I think John will agree. Just good to see him playing football.
Yeah.
That has to be said, definitely. Okay, 2 more to go. This one's another one from Liga, and it's from PG again, and it's another good question. I love the way he's put it. Why has Michel not been fired yet? For those who don't know, Michel is the former Real Madrid player who is managing Marseille, and PG knows his extra bit. Does he know where all the bodies are buried? I love that. I don't know, PG. It's a bizarre one. Obviously, I mentioned in the roundup of Liga earlier on, there is a lot of talk that he will be replaced in the summer. The fans are not happy. There was sort of banners of Bielsa's face on very recently, actually, in a game against, I think it was against Lyon from memory. But they're not happy. The style of football is not great. It's very sort of Louis van Gaal-esque. Marseille are struggling. They've got a massive turnover of players in and out. They've made more sort of ins and outs in this transfer window again, and they just look like a side completely rudderless. And the good thing is they've managed to keep Batshuayi. Bringing in Fletcher today, Stephen Fletcher for Sunderland, is a real bizarre one, but we'll see how that works out. But no, I can't see Michel there beyond the rest of this season, if he even lasts the season. That is, who Marseille get though. That really is open to interpretation from people, I guess, and it's difficult to know what sort of manager would want to manage a club of Marseille standing because they've fallen so far. But I agree with you. It's a very strange choice at the time. It's an even stranger choice that he's still employed. We shall see where that goes next. So good question again. Thank you, PG. The final question was from our good friend Jens Shaheen. More on him in a second. Now, he wanted us to discuss, we're probably not going to get time to discuss in too much depth, but he's provided a lovely little graphic here with the top 5 strikers in their relevant leagues. It's Benzema from La Liga, along with Suarez, Lewandowski in Bayern, Aguero at Man City, and Higuain at Napoli. I'm just going to give you all 30 seconds. Tom, you've got 2 players there, but I'm going to give you 30 seconds to state your cases as to why you think the striker from your league is the best. And I'll deal with Aguero, seeing as there's no French player there. So, Tom, Suarez and Benzema, you can pick which one you think's best. Go.
That's easy. Suarez all day long, and the boys are going to love to try and beat me at this, but Suarez for me is the most instinctive, reactive, and best finisher of all those players. He knows how to finish with both feet, he knows how to improvise, and he knows how to work in a team which, like Liverpool, ran that team and then integrate into a team like Barcelona where he's not the main man and still score so many goals and set up so many goals for other people. So I think the player's got everything, gets the ball, takes the ball forward and latches onto runs and gets around players. He's got everything.
Fair enough, yeah. Can't disagree with that. Drew, Robert Lewandowski, go.
Honestly, it's tough to disagree with Tom on this one. I think Lewandowski is an excellent player, but I think sometimes he actually is wasteful of chances. So I'm not going to actually argue why I think he's the best player. I think I'm going to argue why he's not. I'm going to take a different spin. I feel like if you want goals, he'll give you goals. But unlike Suarez only needs the one chance, sometimes Lewandowski needs 6. I think that's his downfall. I think he's in a Bayern team that can be wasteful of their chances. I think he's one of the main culprits, honestly. But I think he's a brilliant player. I think he can still learn. I think he can also improve. I think if he goes to a league like Spain or the Premier League where week in, week out, I think the competition overall is harder. I think he'll actually improve in that area. But he's a brilliant striker, but I don't think he's the best of the lot for both sides.
Good defence. John Higuain, go.
Oh, I can't say Higuain's the best. I can't bring myself to do it. No, I think out of all of them that Suarez is the best, and he's proven it well leveled. The one thing I will say for Higuain is if he can carry on this form that Sarri has sort of got him playing, and then he can do it also for Argentina, who, he to be fair to him, he has got a very good record for, and he's got serious competition to get into that Argentina team. Any of the forwards have. It's unbelievable the competition there. Then if he continues that, then he's definitely in with a shout. Because this season he has been unbelievable. And as much as obviously I'm an Inter fan, it is really nice to see someone else challenge for the title, because normally it's Juve just walking away with it. So I have a sneaky kind of want Napoli to do it this season. So I hope Higuain stays fit for the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Aguero, okay, how can I do that? Right, consistently scores goals. His injury record obviously is a real worry. Transforms a team that sometimes doesn't even provide for him. I think it's fair to say City, without De Bruyne and Silva, sometimes they struggle to be creative, so he can score all types of goals. He's good in the air, he's good on the deck, he's quick, and obviously his international record stands up to that. He scored goals in 2 different countries, which is always a sign of a good striker, and the fact that he's got such a low centre of gravity means he's very, very difficult to mark, particularly when he makes those runs, and we've all seen that he's essentially transformed Man City from a sort of a mid-table side into a championship-winning side. So that would be my ideas on him. Just to draw a line under that then, and it's a very good debate. Just to let you all know, Karim Benzema comes out quite well from this. He is top on chance created, 1.69. This is out of those 5. He's also top on key passes, 1.61. He's also top on goals scored, 1.3. However, Higuain is the most successful taker of chances. He takes a staggering 57.58% of his chances created. That is quite a stat, by the way.
And I've always said he was rubbish.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
What do I know?
The closest to that is Lewandowski at 50% dead. The lowest, surprises me, is Suarez. 36.36% of chances is I say all he takes, but you get my gist. But yeah, it's a good debate, that. Good debate. And as usual, Jan Zeb has hijacked our whole podcast by asking a question that was really in depth. So thanks for that, Jan Zeb. Right, before we leave you, and we just want to finish off with another question that Janzeb posed us last week, and we're not going to disappoint you, Janzeb. You set us homework, and we have delivered. So, I presume you gentlemen have all got your £30 million or less teams at the ready.
Yep.
So, Drew, you've volunteered to go first. Well done. I just literally want you to read out the formation and the player and team that you've picked in what position and the total you've spent. This is all according to transfermarket.co.uk's valuations. So away you go, Drew.
Okay, I went with 4-3-3, how German of me, with one holding midfielder, 2 center mid. So the goalkeeper is Loris Karius from Mainz, and he was worth 3.5 million. Right back is Mitchell Weiser from Hertha Berlin at 1.4 million. The center back pairing is Benjamin Hubner from Ingolstadt. He was 1.05 million, and Sebastian Leinkap from also from Hertha Berlin for 2.1 million. Left back is Marvin Plattenhardt, also from Hertha Berlin at 1.75 million. Holding midfield, I went with Mahmoud Dahoud from Gladbach for 1.75 million. Center midfielders are Dano Didavi and Louis Holtby from Stuttgart and Hamburg, respectively, both for 2.8 million. Right wing, I went with Leroy Sané from Schalke for 5.6. Left wing, I went with Fabian Johnson from Gladbach for 4.2, and striker Yoshinori Muto from Mainz for 1.75 million. And the total was 28.7.
That's not a bad total, actually, and I have to say right off the bat, I haven't written down my prices and nor so you're just going to have to trust us. I've got the total, so you're going to have to. You can look these players up if you don't believe us. So me and John are exempt from our prices. Tom, you can go next then. What's your La Liga team?
I do have my prices, so I can go through them. I've got Pau Lopez for 560,000 coins from Espanyol. At right back, the amazing Kappa Ibar, 2.1 million. Masakio from Villarreal and Enzo Rocco from Espanyol make up the back two. That's 6.3 million and 2.1 million respectively. Escudero, the Sevilla left back, at 2.1 million. The midfield three, which comprises of one holding midfielder and two centre midfielders, the holding being Camacho, a team transforming player, £5.25 million. Asensio and Trigueros, 3.5 million and 4.12 million respectively from Espanyol and Villarreal. The front three, Neymar, Messi, Keiko, 500,000 from Ibar. Agarecho is the striker from Real Sociedad at 2.5 million, and the left winger takes the space of Seven Moreno, the youngster from Athletic Bilbao, at 420,000 pounds. Kris, I lied to you with my total. I just recalculated it, and my A-level maths degree has definitely not helped. It comes to a total of £29.53 million.
Okay. So slightly out of what we said earlier, but still under budget. So you've still done well there. I'll let you off. John, are you ready?
Yeah, go on then.
Crack on.
Right, I've gone for a 3-4-1-2, just because that's what you do in Italy. So it's two centre mids and two wide attacking midfielders who also, they're supposed to defend, but I just cheated basically. Anyway, so in goal I've got Luca Lezzarini from Fiorentina, a young up-and-coming goalkeeper there. He's just made the one appearance this season. My back three is Daniele Regani from Juventus, Mauricio from Lazio, Wesley Hoyt from Lazio. My two centre mids are Martin Derun from Atalanta and Oscar Hillemart from Palermo. I've got Joaquin Correa from Samp and Jose Mauri from AC Milan as my two wide midfielders. My number 10 is Manuel Pugliarelli from Empoli. And then up front I've got one of Chris's favourites, Andrea Balletti from Torino. And of course the tasty striker in Serie A, Kevin Lasagna. My price, I kind of cheated because I wanted to put Daniela Regani in. So actually, I was over budget. So I did 30.3 million.
Oh dear! Oh dear!
Well, one of us had to cheat, and I was like, I'm not dropping Regani. So if you shoot me, it's fine.
Oh, Janta, there you go. You have an out. You have an out.
No, I'm doing Serie A. We're supposed to cheat. It's what we do.
Outrageous. So yeah, Janzev, your question has just been bastardised live on air. Brilliant. Okay, well, I didn't cheat, boys and girls. I think a lot of people thought my team was going to be the easiest to pick, so just to make it a bit harder for myself and full hipster, my team is entirely made up of Frenchmen, just to be different. So I've gone with Benjamin Lecomte in goal for Lorient. I should say it's in a 4-2-3-1. I've got right back Brian Darbo from Montpellier, left back Gibril Sidibe from Lille, centre back pairing of Pebenes and Le Marchand from Bastia and Nice respectively. Midfield two holders of Vincent Cosiello of Nice and Fabien Lemoine from St Etienne. I had to get him in, didn't I? Bulk of my money. Nabil Fekir in the central attacking midfield role, flanked by Kevin Nkudu on the left-hand wing for Marseille and Paul Lasner of Montpellier on the right wing, and up front Wissam Ben Yedder. I did have Michy Batshuayi and I could afford him, but I chose to keep it all French, so I went with Wissam Ben Yedder instead. And the total, I didn't cheat, John. 29.26 million was my team. So, there you go. That was my team. There there we go. That was that's the best we could come up with our relevant amount of money, shall we say? So if you've got teams, if you come, I think didn't Jansab share his team with us? I think he did.
Yeah,
sure he
yeah,
did.
he did. Yeah, we'll have to put. I think we retweeted it. We'll put it out again.
Yes, yeah, or if he can build it in FootDraft, we'll tweet it. But I will tweet our teams later on in the week, and you can have a look through those. But there you go, Jansab, sorted. We've answered your question. We've done your homework, so there you go. Right, okay, well that's pretty much it for us this week. I know Drew has actually had to leave us, so I'll thank Drew sort of on air, as it were. He's had to shoot off, so thank you to Drew. While we speak of Drew, do give our latest interview a listen. Myself and Drew sat down with Yael Averbush, who's a US women's national team representative in the women's league. She's played all over Europe, and she's still playing for Sporting Kansas City Soccer Club in the US. Very, very interesting insight into women's football from a coaching perspective, and she's also done a lot of journalism as well. And really, really good listen to that. So please give that a listen, and also give our breakfast show a listen. Myself and Ross sat down with Danny last night to chew over the weekend's action in the FA Cup, and we had quite a good natter on that, so that's always worth a listen. And we will be returning with a midweek breakfast pod. Myself, Ross and Danny will return on Wednesday night. It should be released late Wednesday night to review all the midweek action from the Premier League, so to give that a listen as well. Tom, you've got an interview coming up. Do you want to just give that a quick mention?
Yeah, a week tomorrow, or a week today, seeing as this will be out on Tuesday. I'll be interviewing the Sky Sports commentator for La Liga, John Driscoll, which I'm actually quite excited about. So that should be out a week on Thursday to coincide with our day that we release interviews. So, yeah, very good.
Fantastic. And obviously, if you've got any requests, I mean, I don't think we're going to be able to get any sort of superstars, but you never know. So if there is somebody you'd really like to hear an interview from, just give us a tweet, and we'll see what we can do. Yeah, maybe not football related, preferably, but
I'm sure she watches it.
Oh, I'm sure she does. I know we're all working hard to get more interviews. I know people really enjoy them, so we are working hard to get more interviews. If there's anybody that you'd really love us to approach or drop an email, all we can do is ask. We might get a no, but we can keep trying. And the only other final thing to say is, as usual, iTunes or YouTube, please do leave us some comments on the YouTube page. I monitor that page regularly. It's a great way for me to meet people that are listening to us that we might not have heard of. I know we had a follow the other day from somebody who has his own YouTube channel. And I followed him on the pod. He's got a Football Manager channel, so we've given him a follow. And on iTunes, again, if you like what we do, give us a 5-star review, drop a comment in there. It helps us get the word out there. So thank you very much, as usual. So, as I said, thank you very much to Drew, who's had to leave us, and also thank you to Tom, and thank you to John.
Cheers,
Appreciate
Kris.
your time.
No problem.
And as usual, I shall utter those immortal words. Firstly, I should say, follow us at the FH Podcast if you don't already. And keep your beard strong and your glasses trendy. We will speak to you after the midweek Premier League games on The Breakfast Show and for the transfer special extra pods. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks for downloading and choosing the Football Hipsters podcast. Remember, you can follow us at the FH Podcast on Twitter or our website www.footballhipsterspodcast.co.uk. You can also follow us on Twitter individually at AFCFreddy8 for me, Kris, or for Danny it's at @the_GFP, for John it's at JWelsh84, for Tom it's at TCanton94, for Drew, it's at AFCBVB1410. For Jake, it's at JakeArsenal1. For our producer Gaz, it's at GazMadJones. And for our researcher Kelly, it's at Kelly_Mayor. We'll speak to you next week.